All right, guys, we're going to get started. If you can find a seat, we're going to get started in about 1 minute. Everyone, if you can, find a seat. If you're at the bar, if you can make your way towards the front and find a seat, there's plenty of seats available. The throne? When are we starting? Now. I'm trying to. Can you? I'm trying to. All right, where's Alan? All right, guys, if you can go ahead and find a seat. Can you guys hear me in the back? I don't know if anybody can hear me. Hey, could you go in the back and tell me if you can hear me? All right, guys, bring it towards the front. I don't think the speaker goes any louder, guys. We got to bring it towards the front. Sure. All right, guys, let's start moving towards the front. We gotta get this show on the road. We got a lot of people. We got a lot of candidates to talk tonight. Thank you. All right, guys, let's make our way towards the front. The microphone does not go any louder. I've got it cranked up to 10, and it doesn't go to 11. I'm sorry. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you guys want to keep talking in the back, I guess we'll deal with that. So, all right, guys, welcome to Atlanta Young Republicans. As you can tell, we are the largest GOP club in the state of Georgia. We are the 2021 National Young Republican National Federation Chapter of the Year, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. Yeah, we do have a packed schedule for tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and just get right into it. But before we do that, there is one group of people that I love to recognize every meeting, and that is our board members. If you are on the board of Atlanta Young Republicans, if you can stand up or raise your hand, let's give these guys a round of applause because nothing that we do happens without them. They've been doing a fantastic job, including Rosie. All right, so to get us started, I'm going to have Jeff Howell come up. Jeff is running for Sandy Springs City Council District 6. He is a graduate of Cornell University. He's been in business for almost 30 years. And I will say one thing real quick. Why are we featuring Jeff? Well, Jeff's running in a nonpartisan race. There are no Democrats or Republicans on the ballot in Sandy Springs City Council, but one of the reasons that we're featuring his race is because he is an obvious Republican running against an obvious Democrat. So we need to give him our support. That's right. So, guys, well, we've already welcomed him, but go ahead and welcome Jeff Howe.
Well, thank you, Gabe. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to really talk about my story. I'm not here to talk about my campaign. I want to tell you about what happened to me and why I got involved in the politics on a local level at the age of 64. So real quick, I'm married to my lovely wife, Margaret, for 40 years. We have 3 great children. They're all off on their own. In terms of business, fortunately, I've been an executive vice president of 3 Fortune 500 companies. I've led organizations as large as 1,500 people on a national scale in terms of sales operations, account development, and account management support. And I retired about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And I had the hardest time to figure out what I wanted to do. I played golf a lot. I love golf. I don't love it every day. I was looking for a passion. I was looking for something with a purpose. And I kept wondering, what am I going to do? I got involved in some early stage startup companies. One is actually a sterilizing company for pathogens for COVID, utilizing UVC technology. Early stage things, but I was missing something. And after the 2020 election, I thought to myself, now is the time to get involved. Now is the time to take your talent, your treasure, and your time and do something. So let me ask you a question for everybody that's out there right now. Don't raise your hand. Are you looking for something to do? Are you involved? Have you found a passion? Do you know what you can do to get involved? So here's what I did. Fulton County had a mass meeting. I had never been. I've done volunteer work throughout my career. I've been involved in the Ronald McDonald House on a national level. I've also been involved in some other charities and things like that. I went to my first mass meeting, and I became a vice precinct chair. From there, we started neighborhood meetings, and we started to get together. What can we do to make a difference? At that point in time, the mayor of Sandy Springs, Rusty Paul, was running for re-election. He was running against Dante Carter, is extreme left. I reached out to Rusty, and I said, Rusty, you don't know who Howe is, but I'm going to get some of my precinct chairs of the GOP together, and we're going to go out, we're going to help you get elected. So we actually got people involved, and we started helping him to get elected. At that point in time, we then found out that there was an opportunity for me to run against a gentleman who is actually left in Sandy Springs. So again, at the age of 64, I'm jumping into local politics. The point I'm trying to make is, if you're looking for something to do, if you want to get involved, us candidates could certainly use your help. And here I'm going to ask for something, but I'm also going to give you an offer as well too. So for me, if you want to get involved in my campaign for something as simple as walking the door knocks, right now in my campaign, since I don't have name recognition, I can tell you right now, my wife and I have knocked on 937 doors. I have 3,100 doors to knock on by now till November 2nd, and I'm going to do it. But if some of you want to get out involved, that's the ask. Here's the offer, however. Some of you folks, you're all in business. I will offer to you, if you want any mentoring services for your career in business, anything that you may have that I could help, because I've mentored quite a few people in my career, that's the offer I will give to you. So there's the quid pro quo. So with that, I want to thank you for your time. Get involved, find something to do, and let's make a difference, because now is the time to jump in. Now is the time to make a difference in this country. We have got to take back this country. And the youth and the energy in this room, you are the future. You can make this happen. Us old folks, us experienced individuals, we're just here to ride along with you. So we want to ride in your coattails. Jump in, the water's warm. Come on in.
Thank you, Jeff. And if I can editorialize for a second, I just want to say these local races are where we can have the biggest impact. That's why AYR, last year we focused our entire election effort in one House district. A race like a city council seat, not only is that where government impacts you and has the biggest impact on you as an individual, it's also where you as an individual can have the biggest impact on the government. Because the reality is, if you're knocking on doors for the president or even a statewide race, the likelihood that one individual makes the difference in that race is pretty slim. But one person could make the difference in Jeff's race or in Mike's race, who I'm about to talk about now. So Mike Russell, he's a retired U.S. Army MP or military policeman. After that, he became a self-taught marketing guru in the banking sector. And another piece of editorial content, I will say that Mike is probably the most requested candidate that people have asked AYR and asked me to bring on. So guys, join me in welcoming Mike Russell.
Who's the timekeeper? I got 10 minutes. So I am a retired Army officer. I spent 28 years in the United States Army as a military police officer. I spent 28 years in the United States Army as a military police officer. During that time, I was the equivalent to a police chief in military bases around the world. So when my opponents talk about fighting crime, I've done that. When people talk about community policing, I've done that. One of the other things I did in the Army was I was a base operations officer. Not the thing I wanted to do because I was a war fighter, at least I thought I was. And after I'd been to Iraq a couple of times, the Army said, you need a change. So they put me in charge of a couple of bases as the operations officer. And what I did there was I was responsible for coordinating the city services on those bases. And at the last duty station in Wiesbaden, Germany, we were awarded as the very best in the United States Army worldwide for the city services that we provided to our residents, our soldiers, their families, and the civilians. And I can do that again here in Atlanta. So I'm asking you for your support. I'm running against an avowed socialist. I'm running against a person who's been in 20 years in the city council who's still talking about what she's going to do, not about what she's done. I'm running against a guy whose claim to fame is he's run 2 museums. And I'm running against a guy who says he's proud of being the chairman of the city public schools, but our schools, only 30% of our kids can read at the appropriate level. I need your help to turn this city around. So I'm asking of you a couple of things. Please go to my website. If you're capable, if you're able to, please donate, because the good news is we are #1 in the polls. But the establishment is cranked up and the money is flowing to the other candidates. I need your support. The second thing I would ask you to do is go to the website, to Facebook, and like those things, because that helps the algorithm. We just had enough money now to run our first television ads this week, and social media, and the first day we had 10,000 views on our first ad. I need your help to keep those ads on the air. The next thing I'd ask you to do is to join the campaign as a volunteer. Like you said earlier, knocking on doors, filling out postcards, sending out push cards. I have an event on the 30th in Buckhead at 10 Lizzie's. It's called Margaritas with Mike. Come out and get your free margarita and join the team. With that, I'll open it up if anybody has any questions. No questions? Who had the question? Oh, Coleman, I'm sorry. So he asked me about fighting crime. So my experience has taught me there are 3 elements about crime. There's prevention, restitution, and rehabilitation. I'm working with a guy now that's from Detroit. He has a very successful program of intervening with kids and their entire families. He's called the Prison Doctor. He spent 20 years in jail himself for armed robbery. And I was the only person in the city of Atlanta that answered his call when he asked for people to support him in helping our youth. And now everybody and their brother is reaching out to him because they found out how successful his program is. The second part is restitution. If you commit a crime, there has to be a consequence. And in our city and in our county right now, that is not the case. I'll give you 2 prime examples. We have these venues who have been cited multiple times for code violation, and they're still open. I plan to have legislation ready on the first day that I'm city council president to change the ordinance that says if you're in violation of the code, you get locked up until you go to court. Right now, they just stay open and keep making money, and they have total disregard for the law. And the second thing is, we've had, as an example, we've had 10,000 car break-ins this year in the city of Atlanta. Because again, there's no consequence to breaking into a car. And these kids are breaking into the cars, and we have now over 1,000 stolen weapons on the street. There's no question as to why crime is so bad in Atlanta. So the second piece of legislation I plan to have ready on the first day the council meets is saying that if you break in a car, there is a serious consequence, and you will not be eligible for a signature bond. You are going to jail. And the third thing is rehabilitation. Those who are willing to admit their guilt, to understand that they made a mistake, and they want to work their way back into society, there has to be a path for them to do that, and we're going to work on that as well. There are plenty of folks in this city who are willing to help folks who are willing to help themselves. The problem is we have a lot of politicians who are spending our money like there's no tomorrow. They do not care about the people, they just care about standing in office. I'm offering a new type of leadership that's more about the results than the rhetoric, and I plan to help change this city to make it, as my campaign slogan says, safer and better for everybody. So while you're sitting here, please go to MikeRussellAtlanta.com, hit that donate button, or sign up, or just follow me on social media. If you could do those three things, that would help our campaign a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, guys, our next candidate is somebody that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He is, by trade, he's a lawyer with a special focus in elections law. One of the more interesting things that I've seen him do is he actually overturned the same election, the result of the election. He overturned it twice as the lawyer in that election. He's also the past chairman of the Georgia Ethics Commission. And I'm just curious, does anybody in this room think that the Democrats here in Georgia or in Atlanta, are the Democrats corrupt? Yeah, so, well, this person was able to use his position as chairman of the Ethics Commission to indict Democrats and really bring their corruption to light. He is also the immediate past president of the Atlanta Young Republicans. Guys, join me in welcoming Jake Evans.
Well, good. Well, it's good to be home, guys. It really is. It feels great to be where I belong, which is right here with the Atlanta Young Republicans. The first thing I have to say is I'm going to have a little bit of jealousy. Under my leadership, the Atlanta Young Republicans won the National Chapter of the Year. And the trophy that we got was a plastic plaque about this size. And I see Gabe this year drinking, I don't know what, I'm sure it was just water out of this trophy. So it looks good, and I'm proud of you, Gabe. And I'm proud of all of the Atlanta Young Republicans because this is a great organization, still the largest in the country, and makes real impact and real change. I know many of you guys in this room, but for the people that don't know me, my name is Jake Evans, and I'm running for Congress in the 6th Congressional District to retake our country and create the great comeback to reinstate American values and reinstate America as the greatest country on earth. I've been in the race for about 9 weeks, and we have had tremendous momentum, but I'll talk a little bit about who I am for those that don't know me really well, so you can learn a little bit more about me. I grew up in Douglas County, Georgia, which is on the west side. It's a suburb. My father was from Dublin, Georgia. My mother was from Carrollton, Georgia, and at an early age, they taught me the value of hard work, of discipline and personal responsibility, and I'm the manifestation of all those values and how far they can take you in America. Every Saturday in the fall, my dad and I would go to University of Georgia football games. That was kind of our father-son thing that we did. In doing that, I grew up and developed a dream school. And my dream school was the University of Georgia Go Dogs, 3-0, number 2 in the nation, had a big opening win against Clemson. I'm very proud of them. But I looked really hard at going to law school, and I thought about going to Georgetown. I thought about going to all these super sophisticated schools, but I ultimately decided I should stay back home and went to University of Georgia for law school. I then started my legal career. Very early on in my career, I began taking on bold cases, hard cases that represented what I believe in and the conservative values that I believe in. I represented our churches against liberal cities that tried to discriminate against them based upon what religious people believe in and based upon the Christian values that this country was based on. I represented the everyday man who was robbed of an election up in Northeast Georgia and didn't have an opportunity to have fair and secure elections, which are 2 of the most important elements of a flourishing democracy. And as Gabe said, I'm the only lawyer in Georgia history to successfully overturn 2 elections in the same race. This was back in 2018, before election integrity was a top-line issue. I didn't do this to try to get on the front page of any newspaper. I did it because I believed it, and I believed that this country had to have election integrity, and I was still fighting for it last November, 2020. I represented the Pennsylvania House Republican Caucus. Everyone in the country thought Pennsylvania would be one of the core states to determine whether President Trump was reelected. And as a result of that, the Democrats initiated a complete and total fury, filing lawsuit after lawsuit in Pennsylvania. I defended one lawsuit after another, and one of the lawsuits went all the way before the United States Supreme Court, and I fought to ensure that only legal votes would be cast in the presidential election last year. As Gabe said, I also chaired Georgia State Ethics Commission. I did that for just under 3 years, and Georgia Ethics Commission has been a plagued agency. I don't know how many of you guys follow the Ethics Commission, but it's had a lot going on. And I reinstated that agency as an agency to be respected, an agency of enforcement, an agency of accountability, that if you didn't respect the campaign finance laws in this state, you knew there would be consequences. And a couple of people felt those consequences, one of which was Stacey Abrams. She had multiple dark money groups backing her completely and totally not following the campaign finance laws in this state, and we held her accountable. The next was the Fulton County DA, Paul Howard. He was utilizing C4's nonprofits in order to pay himself a salary. We held him accountable. And then last but certainly not least was Keisha Lance Bottoms. Ms. Bottoms was inappropriately taking contributions well above the limits, and we held her accountable. Now, I normally don't put this part in because most people can't appreciate the value of what we did here with the Atlanta Young Republicans. But this is a very proud part of who I am and what I built. This organization we built under my leadership to becoming the largest organization in the country. We won the national chapter of the year, the Georgia chapter of the year. I won Man of the Year, we won the Event of the Year, back-to-back years. We were featured across national publications for the great work that we were doing to growing the conservative movement amongst millennials, the largest voting bloc in this country. But thankfully, you can always judge a true leader by his successor, and Gabe Hartwig has continued that momentum, maintaining AYR as the #1 organization for membership size in the country and winning the national chapter of the year. So you deserve a round of applause for that. The whole group does. But as I look at what's going on in this country, and as I look at the American dream, the dream that if you work hard, if you're disciplined, if you have personal responsibility, you can do anything in this nation, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that that dream that I got to live is not going to be lived by my children. And because of that, I can't stand by. It is not convenient for me to jump in this race. I made partner to AmLaw 25 law firm, a very significant accomplishment, but I am putting that on the line, and I'm putting it on the line for our country, a country that I am not going to let go to waste based upon the radical liberal policies that are being forced down America's throats. Look at what Joe Biden has done 8 months into his presidency. He's created a crisis at the border, opening it up for hundreds of thousands of people, many of which are bringing fentanyl, one of the most dangerous substances humanity has ever seen, bringing across sex trafficking, and the irony, bringing across COVID, what all the Democrats allegedly are very, very concerned about. Look at what's happened with the inflationary crisis. The Democrats are printing off money by the droves. We're talking about another $3.5 trillion, devaluing the purchasing power of the dollar, disincentivize Americans from working, which fundamentally changes the structure and fabric of this country. We're a country based upon American ingenuity, American creativity, hard work. We reward all those factors. Incentivizing people to sit on their couch and do nothing, not only in the short term, reduces the economic recovery, but it also changes the underlying fabric of this country. H.R. 1, H.R. 4, both of those are election bills. Those election bills seek to fundamentally change our form of government. They seek to federalize elections, federalize campaign finance, prohibit voter ID at the polls, allow for ballot harvesting. As I said earlier, I don't believe in fight for election integrity because it's an issue that I think is a frontline issue. I do it because I believe in my core, and I've done it from the beginning. Look internationally. I've asked group after group this question. Under the Trump administration, how many national security crises did we have? Name them. You're not going to be able to name them because there were none. And it's not because he was an overburdensome, uber-strong military dictator. It was because countries across this world knew there's consequences for action. I always use this analogy. If you go down to South Georgia and you try to break into someone's house, you're going to think twice because there's going to be a double-barrel shotgun on the other side of the door waiting for you. That's what we need to make America into being again. A country that is respected. A country that if you know you violate human rights in Cuba, if you launch a crusade of missiles against our #1 ally in the Middle East and Israel, there are going to be consequences for actions. And the culmination of this is Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we had a president who was more focused on a photo op on September 11th in order to show, oh, I am an anti-military guy, everyone's back home on September 11th, that he was willing to sacrifice American soldiers, civilians, Afghans who are allies of us. He took out the military before he took out the civilians. Guys, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old could tell you that was a bad idea. So all of that shows I can't stand by. I've got to stand back and we got to retake this country. So what am I running on? I'm running a bold conservative campaign that is based upon core ideas that made this country the greatest country on earth. I'm going to sell and deliver for the American people. We're going to deliver security for our people. I'm going to deliver education for our children. I'm going to deliver liberty for our rights. And I'm going to deliver limited government for our country. Security. First and foremost, we've got to get control of the crisis at the border. We have to be unafraid in building the wall, finishing the wall, ensuring that our border agents at the border have the security that they need, have the support that they need to do their job, which is a very, very difficult job. Domestically, we've got to get back to supporting our law enforcement. I always tell this story. My cousin is a deputy sheriff down in Lawrence County, Georgia. And he tells me this story last year. He was driving. There was a high-speed chase. He had to make a decision whether he would continue on that high-speed chase or he would let the criminal go. And a part of his calculus was, if I keep driving forward, a lot of bad things can happen. Number one, I could pull the guy over. Something bad can happen, and I could get accused of doing something based upon a racial motive, which is blatantly and totally false. I could lose my job. I could lose my livelihood. I couldn't put food on the table for my family. I could get in an accident, or I could just let this guy go. Guess what he did? He let him go. And if you anyone ever ask you why is crime spiking in Atlanta, why are our police officers quitting in droves? Because they don't have the support that they need. Whenever your Atlanta mayor blames the police officers first and goes on a tirade against her own law enforcement, including firing her police chief, that's not going to provide support for me or any police officer putting their life on the line. My campaign is about unapologetically supporting our law enforcement. I met with the chief of Marietta. I'm meeting with more law enforcement officials because I want to hear what they have to say to reinstate that and protect crime in the 6th District, which is a core issue. The last part of security is, and this is one that's not talked about enough, which is reinstating the institution of the American family. That is making sure that the single most important indicator of long-term success, which is a dual family household, is protected, making sure that parents have the confidence that they need to know that you're not just doing it for you and your wife or husband, you're doing it for your children. And by virtue of that, I have taken a bold pro-life stance. I filled out the Georgia Life Alliance survey, got the certification. I've been attacked by my opponent, Lucy McBath, multiple times for it. I'm proud of it. Education, school choice. We need to reinstate a voucher program injecting free market principles into our school system. Critical race theory. Critical race theory is a national security crisis. Nobody talks about it like a national security crisis, but it is. And it is because we are artificially dividing our children at 4, 5, 6 years old, the future generations of this country, on the basis of a complete and total false premise, which is utilized by the Democrats for one reason, and that is intent to win elections. They know they can't beat Republicans based upon the issues. They can only beat Republicans if they divide and conquer, and they're trying to do it through our school system, not indoctrinating kids, not educating kids, but indoctrinating kids. Liberties. We have to get back to unafraid and proudly protecting our liberties. The Democrats now want to make you feel ashamed, like it's a controversial topic, whether you decide to wear a mask or not, whether you decide to get vaccinated or not, whether you speak their language or not. We have to get back to protecting our civil and human liberties. Guys, this is not a controversial subject. This is a subject that the United States of America was founded on. When our ancestors crossed on the Mayflower to get here, they did it because they wanted to get away from oppressive church regimes and do and practice the way they wanted to do and practice. That is what this country is based on. That's not a Republican principle, that's an American principle. How can we be ashamed and believe that that's something that's controversial? Economic liberties, less government, lower taxes, less regulation. Those are the principles that unleash the power of the American economy. Religious liberties. We are a Judeo-Christian country, whether the liberals want to admit it or not. The value system of Christianity, I'm a product of it. My granddad was a Southern Baptist preacher. It's something I'm very proud of. I'm not saying everybody needs to be Christian. You can practice the religion of your choice. That's the reason why we have separation of church and state. But if you want to practice that religion, and unfortunately, the only religion that's under attack in this country is Judaism and Christianity, and that's a fact. Limited government intrusion, limited government regulation, lower taxes, again, common sense principles that make America unlike any country in the world. In this country, if you take risk, as much as I don't like Jeff Bezos and all the folks in Silicon Valley, we created a structure that incentivizes risk-taking, creativity, and hard work, and as a result, we have the most inventions, the most patents in the world, and it's the reason why China is stealing from us, and we're not stealing from them. So, how much time? I'm almost out? So, the bottom line is Joe Biden and Lefty Lucy, who I'm running against, is trying to make America like the rest of the world when we should be making the rest of the world like America. I launched this Unafraid Conservative campaign. The momentum is huge. Speaker Newt Gingrich has endorsed. Former U.S. Security Advisor Rick Grinnell's endorsed. Mark Burkhalter, former Speaker of the House. Congressman Bob Barr, the Atlanta Tea Party. The 3 former chairmen of the Georgia Cobb GOP. Cobb County Board Chairman Randy Scammahorn. Barry Morgan, the list goes on. But the best endorsement I've gotten is from my opponent, Lucy McBath. There's only one candidate in my race on the GOP primary side that she's attacked 4 times specifically, and that's me. She knows I'm the candidate that is going to take her down and beat her in 2022. So I need you guys' help to do it. We need to unify behind the best candidate in this race like the Democrats do. They coordinate their nominees. And we need to help that candidate be in full position to beat the complete and total liberal machine of 2022. So I hope that you guys will join me in the great comeback to retake America. That comeback is going to reinstate America for what it is, and that is the greatest country on earth. Thank you guys very much.
Good job, Jake. Yeah. All right, guys. Our next candidate running for the same position in CD6. He is an entrepreneur and business owner. I haven't asked him how much. I know he funded a lot of his own campaign, so I think he makes most of his money in the real estate business, specifically mortgages. But one of the more interesting businesses, he actually is the recent owner of an ammunition company. You can ask him, he might be giving out discounts afterwards for those of us that are gun owners. I don't know. Guys, please join me in welcoming Blake Harbin.
Thank you, Gabe. Thanks for setting this up. One thing, just for all the candidates that are here. And also, thank y'all for coming out and participating. My name is Blake Harbin, and I am running to be your next congressman. I get the question a lot. It says, Blake, why should I vote for you? What makes you different? Now, aside from the obvious, the answer is pretty easy. I'm just like you. I work for a living. I am a working class, conservative Republican. There's a lot of rhinos out there. That ain't me. It's not where I come from. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I don't have a political insider father that opened doors for me. I'm not even an attorney like a lot of people that run for Congress. I'm just a regular old, everyday, working class Republican. When you come from that background, you learn to be a fighter. I was raised by a single mother. When I got old enough, I got the pleasure of working for my grandfather on the summers in his asphalt paving company. Whether it be driving tractors, driving rollers, or out there digging the deadgum asphalt, and God knows how hot that is, you learn real quick that anything that you want, you're going to have to work for. You're going to have to fight for it. We go on a little bit, and I will tell you just for a little background. In the early 2000s, late 2000s, excuse me, I was an executive in the mortgage industry, and the Great Recession hit. In a blink of an eye, I watched everything I'd worked for over the years evaporate. To make matters worse, and add some insult to injury, to say the least, I was in a tragic accident that put me where I am right now, in this chair. Now, when you go through those sort of things, and you figure out, especially when you're in a chair, that every little task becomes monumental. You have to fight for anything. See, I got my life churned at that point. My life came to a crossroads. On this way, I had a path before me that was going to be harder than hell. It was going to be tough. And it wasn't even guaranteed that you come out on the other side. And on the other side, I could just give up, become a Democrat or something. But what I did do is I did choose to fight. I mustered the strength from within, and I went all out. Oh my God. It is a little emotional sometimes. Because as you go through this, as you do go through this world, you find out that what I have, my injury, becomes a part of you. It reminds you every day that you have to fight. So one thing that I can tell you is I'm going to fight for our, you have to fight for yourself, you have to fight for your neighborhood, and you have to fight for your community. I'm going to fight for Georgia values. I take a look around and I look at America and I see it's changing, and it's not for the better. But one thing I can tell you is that we still stand for Georgia values. You have to forgive me, today's been a very long day. So, excuse me. Anyways. So as I was saying, though, as I do look around and I see the way that America is changing, I realize when I do actually get up there and I look, you see that our leaders, our so-called representatives, Biden, Pelosi, Lucy McBath, they don't represent us. They don't stand for America. And that's why I'm running for Congress. I'm going to stand for Georgia values, our values, and I'm going to fight for a better America. Right now, my Bloomberg-backed opponent with all over New York anti-gun liberals are trying to take the guns away. They voted for it. It already shows it. She's even proposed legislation that would require you to get a background check for a box of bullets. Just a box of bullets. That's un-American. That's not what we stand for. She also has voted to take away your property rights. She believes that the government should be able to tell you how, what, and which way you can own your property and what you should do with it. I don't think we were founded on that. And to make matters worse, she stands with drug dealers. She stands with drug dealers because she voted to lessen the penalties for dealers and distributors of the drug fentanyl. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. It's part of the opioid crisis. Fentanyl is so potent that just 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds, can kill and murder over 200,000 people. Lucy McBath does not stand for the families of the 6th District. You know, she had another event. It's really sad, actually. And she had an event in New York with all of her liberals, and she literally said, and I quote, "America was founded on racism. That it is in every fiber of our nation." Do any of you believe that? I don't. She believes in the teaching of critical race theory. And what critical race theory does is it teaches our children to be a victim or to be an oppressor. And that's just un-American. That doesn't stand for our values. But I can tell you this, that I'm going to fight for Georgia values, and I'm going to stand up for a better America. I can promise you this, I will fight. I absolutely will fight to keep your Second Amendment intact, to keep that infringement from happening. I will fight, make sure drug dealers go away for as long as they possibly can as they murder people on our streets. And I will for damn sure fight for the kids and keep critical race theory out of our education system. My name is Blake Harbin, and I'm running for Congress. Thank you all for being here. God bless you. God bless the United States.
Are there any questions for Blake? Does anybody want to ask a question? Yeah, Chris. Chris asks, assuming that Blake wins the election, wins the general, what is the first bill that he plans to introduce?
One of the things is to get critical race theory out of our school system, to ban it. One of the first bills is to get critical race theory out of our school system. Anything else? Anybody else?
All right, thank you, Blake. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, guys, our last candidate also running for Congressional District 6 here in Georgia. He is a U.S. Army veteran. One of the, I think, most interesting things I've heard from a candidate, while he was in the Army, he actually led a team of soldiers up Mount Everest and actually managed to summit Mount Everest. He is also a well-known vlogger on YouTube, and I have to say I've seen some of his content. Guys, this is the most wholesome content on the internet. I encourage you to check it out. Guys, give a round of applause for Harold Earls.
Hey, it is good to see you guys. I want to point out my wife, Rachel. Rachel, wave your hand. I'm actually surprised to see her here tonight because she's been trying to solve the Brian laundry case, so it's actually surprised to see her come out. Hey, want to jump straight to it for sake of time. So I'm Harold Earls, and I'm running for Congress in the 6th District in Georgia. So to tell some of my story, I grew up in Roswell, born and raised, and then I ended up going and playing baseball at West Point, and that's what started my military career. I tell you, West Point really instilled in me. They said that before you can be a good leader, you got to be a person of character. And I tell you, it did that. I think that right now we need leaders of character now more than ever. I'll tell you, when climbing Everest, I ended up going, it takes 60 days just to make it to the top. And while we're there, I want to tell a story with you because it really shaped my life, to tell you the truth. While we're there, we're making our climb towards the top. It's 36 hours straight of climbing. And so we made our way, we summited, and as our team was working our way back down, we got hit with a nasty storm. 75-mile-an-hour winds, our team got split up. To tell you the truth, it was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. We got back to Camp 2, we were supposed to sleep at Camp 2, and when we got there, there were no tents, there were just tent poles sticking up. We worked our way back down to Camp 1, and at Camp 1, it was the same thing, and so we went all the way down to advanced camp. And I remember looking at my feet after I got back, and it literally, they were just bleeding. There was no toenails from going down. And so I called my dad. I was completely exhausted, probably the most tired I've ever been. And he said, you know, hey, son, I'm proud of you. You made it back. But he said, where's the rest of the team? And I said, about half of us are back, half of us are still on the mountain. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, son, you need to go back up that mountain or die trying, because that's what leaders do. Frankly, my dad was talking about courage. And I think right now we need leaders that have political courage to stand up and do what's right, and I intend to be that leader. After West Point, after Everest, I ended up serving in total, counting West Point, 9.5 years in the military. Most recently, I served as the commander at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I tell you, that's where I started to see what true sacrifice for this country looks like. Every day I would pass 250,000 white headstones, representative of the very values and freedoms we cherish most. I would see 415 Medal of Honor recipients, 13 Supreme Court justices, now 14 Supreme Court justices. Each of them wove the story that is America. And yet we have elected officials just across the Potomac defacing everything that we stand for, those very values that they died defending. I'll never forget one night, a very pivotal moment for me. I was out, we were guarding the unknowns, it was late at night, and I remember looking out, you could see the U.S. Capitol was lit up on the horizon. And here I was, this Army captain, standing on America's most hallowed ground. And I just felt angry. I just felt angry. I would see World War II vets, and they would come in on wheelchairs. And they would stand and salute with all their might. Its taps echoes across the hills of Arlington. And yet I turn on the news and I hear our politicians are applauding players as they kneel, as America's anthem echoes across America's stadiums. The same flags that I've knelt down and given to widows on behalf of a grateful nation, now being burned and spat on in our streets. And for me, I was like, have we forgotten? Have we forgotten why Francis Scott Key etched those words? As he saw our stars and stripes stand unwavering, as it was relentlessly pounded by enemy fire. Have we forgotten why firefighters went up 100 flights of stairs into the flaming carnage to save fellow American lives? Or Todd Beamer's Let's Roll, as they stormed the cockpit of Flight 93, to the Marines at Iwo Jima, who made a human bridge to cross fields of barbed wire. Do so that today we can cast barbs of discourse in hopes of prodding those that disagree with us? Perhaps this is because we have weak leaders that are too focused on clamoring for power than actually serving you and serving this district. I want to tell you a story, and I want you to listen close. I ended up doing a lot of praying and talking with my wife and family, and said, hey, this is where we feel like God is leading us. I mean, we have 3 boys, and so I did what every person looking at running for office does. They sit and they meet with all the local officials. And so I met with state reps, state senators, and I want to share with you a story. I met with a state senator, and I won't share his name because of where this is going. But that state senator, I poured my heart out, shared much of what I shared with you just now, why I felt led to run. And you know what he told me? True story. He said, son, I understand you want to make a difference and all, but this is the boys' club, and you need to sit down and wait your turn. That right there is what's wrong with politics today. That's what's wrong with our party. We have politicians that feel entitled to your vote. They feel entitled to your support. They feel entitled without ever doing anything. They all endorse each other. Well, I got news for you. Frankly, the people that are endorsing each other are the ones that want to stay in power. They're not actually having your best interest in mind. Well, let me tell you something. I will fight for you. I will fight for our families. I'll fight for the values that we care about. I won't back down to the media. I won't back down to cancel culture. I will take a stand. And so what I intend to do as your congressman is several things. First off, I want to get on the House Admin Committee. The House Admin Committee is in charge of federal elections. So one, I want to make sure that your vote counts. The second thing is you asked what bills that we would do. So for me, I came up with a bill which is called a Real SOB with the Government, or a Real Secure Our Borders Act, which what it does is it actually reimburses states who want to do border security. The federal government will reimburse them up to 50%. So one, it's cheaper for our government. It's cheaper for our government and also secures our border. The next thing is everyone's talked about critical race theory. I think, yes, I agree with that, but what no one has addressed is the actual means and how you do that. And how you do that is by creating block grants, which takes federal money and pushes it all the way down to the state level. Because the problem is right now, the federal government has money, and they say, hey, you have to do X, Y, and Z and teach our platforms in order to get this money. So the intent is actually to create block grants that goes down to the local level. That's how you solve that issue. And so I want to share with you the last thing. I want to keep it short, but I want you to listen close. I reached this point where I felt like, hey, this is where God is leading me to run. And so I want to share with you a story. So every Memorial Day, the president comes and lays a wreath at the tomb. And so part of tradition is our sentinels are getting ready to go out. We'll play previous speeches. from Reagan to Bush to Carter. And Reagan mentioned a soldier by the name of Private Treptow. And I want you to listen close because of where it's going. I did some reading on Private Treptow. He's buried under one of those headstones. And Private Treptow was shipped out with a Western Front with a famed Rainbow Division. And so there, this young private was tasked to carry a message between battalions. And so the young private, he pulls out his journal, and he writes down the information, and he heads out on his way. And as he's making his way across enemy lines, he's struck down and killed with enemy fire. And so the friendly commander, he pulls him down in the trench line, he pulls out his journal, and on the inner flyleaf it says, "My pledge." And it says, "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. As if the issue of the whole struggle, of everything I had been frustrated with that night, guarding the unknowns, depended on me alone to solve. As if the issue of what we're seeing happening at our borders depended on us alone to solve. As if the issue of what we see in Afghanistan, the issue of critical race theory, as if that depended on us alone to solve." If I've learned one thing from Private Treptow, it's that frankly, he's emblematic of everything I hope to be as a patriot and American. That each time when we were at our darkest hour, a new generation of leaders has risen up and done what's needed to be done. Frankly, that ordinary people like you and me can change this country if we believe in it enough. I mean, shoot, George Washington was 21 years old when he first got his military commission. Abraham Lincoln was 22 when he first ran for office. Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. You had more than a dozen other signers under the age of 35 that signed on to that declaration. Buzz Aldrin, he was in his 30s when he landed on the moon. Thomas Edison was 29 when he created the phonograph. This country was founded and built on the backs of young people. And that's what it's going to take today. It's going to take a new generation of leaders to stand up, to fight for this country, and to be the conservative change that we need. I'm Harold Earls, I'm running for Congress, and I'm telling you, you give me a chance. This is not about voting who you know. I think that's frankly been part of our problem. We feel like we know someone and therefore we're obligated to vote for them. It's time we actually vote for who will actually lead, who will actually be the change in this district, who will actually care for you. I'm Harold Earls, and I'd be honored to have your support. Thank you very much. Hey, I want to tell you guys, so go ahead and pull out your phone. I'll give you my number. Really, there's several ways you can help me. One, obviously donate at earls.org. So far, we've raised more money than any other candidate in the race. And then I also want to give you my cell phone. We need volunteers. I think Republicans in the past in Georgia, we try to raise a bunch of money. Frankly, we make TV ads that aren't very good, and we don't actually have a ground game. And so we plan on changing that. So go ahead and take out your phone, and I'll give you my number. It's 770-835-5410. And shoot me a text, and I'll respond to you by the end of the night. I'd be grateful to get you guys involved in my campaign. Thank you very much. Yeah, that works. Any questions? Chris? Yeah, I just weaved it in. Man with babies. Yes, I do have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-month-old. Happily married.
Really try to impact school reform and be a voice.
Yeah. So the question is, how do I plan on impacting school reform? So I can tell you, obviously, from having kids, very personal to me. I think there's several ways to go about that. I mentioned the block grants, right, and pushing funding for education at the federal level down to the state and local level. I think that the second thing is giving parents the option on where to send their kids for school. And so I'll share with you an example. For us, where we live, there's a fantastic elementary school for our boys to go to. Great. It's like an 8 or 9 out of 10. The problem is when they get to middle school, it's a 5 out of 10. So it's terrible, the one that we're slated to go to. And it's like 2.3 miles away. And 2.7 miles in the opposite direction is a middle school that's 8 out of 10. Why do I, as a parent, not have the choice on where to send them to school? Yeah.
I'm super curious now which senator told you that Republican voters don't know how to pick the best candidate? I'm really curious.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. You know, it's interesting. I will definitely hit when it needs to be hit, right? And I will definitely speak out and call people out that are not leading. I think we have plenty of leaders that are doing that. I also think there's a time and a place for that. And you know, I just don't think that's it here. Cool. Thank y'all. It was an honor. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Harold. All right, guys, before we wrap up, if you can give me 5 more minutes of your attention, I want to introduce our VP of Membership, I almost said events, Winslow Jones, to talk about why you, if you are not already, should become a member of Atlanta Young Republicans.
Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. So I'll just give you a few little bullet points of why becoming a member is very valuable. So for one thing, we are a social club, right? But more importantly, we're part of a larger movement. We're trying to influence more millennial and Gen Z generations to become a part of the Republican Party because we believe in our values and to restoring what's really important to this country. And yeah, there's strength in numbers. So that's one of our missions. Another one is a discount, the discounts we offer for part of this club to our paid events. And the biggest one is the Christmas party that's going to happen on December 11th. The Christmas party, okay? So members, okay, if you're a premium member, you can join for $65, okay, if you are 18 to 40. And that will last you for a lifetime until you age out at 41. So those the members get a large discount to the Christmas party. And so right now we are having early bird tickets for $50. It's going to increase to $60. I guess you'll talk about that. Anyway, Alan will talk about that. But if you're a non-member, it starts out at $90 for the night. The night includes drinks, unlimited drinks, and hors d'oeuvres, and he'll talk about that later. Just so you know, there is a huge discount for members for the Christmas party and other paid events throughout the year, like the wine event being our one of the events that we had this past month. The members get a huge discount. Also, you get to vote and serve on the board. So if you're interested in local politics, this is a great place to start. A lot of people like Jake himself have used this as a stepping stone to other local politics, political roles. Also, you get, as a member, you get a name badge. So that's pretty cool. That's a good reason to join. And then lastly, this is just it's fun. Like, it's a great networking opportunity. You're supporting a cause, and you're supporting us being able to hold events here. Let me know if you are interested, and I'll be right up there if you're interested in signing up for membership. I'm Winslow, and thank you so much. You'll have a great night, and here's Alan.
Thank you, Winslow. All right, guys. Wrapping it up, Alan English, our VP of Events, to talk about a couple of really cool events we have coming up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, my name is Alan English, the Vice President of Events. I think I have the most fun job here. Winslow stole a little bit of my thunder, but if you didn't see on Facebook or if you weren't listening to Winslow talk, we do have our signature Christmas party coming up December 11th at Buckhead Art and Company. It's right there in, I guess, what used to be called the Shops of Buckhead. Now it's just called Buckhead Village. As she mentioned, we were offering early bird tickets for $50 that were supposed to last through the rest of this month, but we sold out in a week and a half. So huge demand to come to this event. The tickets are now $60 for members, and that will last until November 1st. So you have, the rest of this month and all of October. If you are not a member, you should be a member. But if you are not a member and you don't want to become a member, but you still want to come to the event, that is possible. But it will cost you $90. And the prices will go up periodically leading up into the event. And again, she said, open bar. You heard correct. Open bar. Come, be ready to have a good time. I will say there will actually not be food this time, because people largely have not eaten it, and it's been a waste of money. So go eat before you come, and then come ready to have a good time. Next event, which is coming up next month for Halloween in October, we have October 14th, 7 p.m. We're going to be at 6 feet under, right down here. We're going to be in West Midtown. We're not going to be downtown on the east side. Right down the street here, about 2 minutes away, at 6 feet under, 7 p.m. on October 14th. Halloween theme. I don't think that I'm going to dress in my costume, but if you want to, by all means, we won't judge. And then quick thing, in November, we're going to have a date change. We're usually second Thursday of the month for socials. This is going to be the second Wednesday of the month, and this will be specifically to celebrate the winning of this big trophy. We have some folks coming from the national organization coming down here to celebrate with us. So if you want to celebrate this huge win, please come. November, it's the second day in November. Location to be determined, but it'll be same, 7 p.m. Come ready to have a good time. And if you have any questions about any events, if you have any questions or issues getting your tickets, please come find me. But we look forward to seeing you next month. And go buy your Christmas party tickets. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, guys. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If anybody comes to the 6 feet under social dressed as either Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden, I'm going to have something for you there. I just decided that we're going to do this just now. But guys, the one that Alan forgot to mention, we will be right back here on the 4th Thursday of October, right back here at Bold Monk. We are at Bold Monk. I want you all to be bold tippers. Please patronize the back. They have great food here, great drink. Thank you all for coming out.